Welcome, everyone. I'm Laura DeFranco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, where we are helping the world experience what's possible. And here today to help me with that mission are some of the amazing authors of one of our newest books. This is called Gifts of Wisdom, Practices for Healing and Empowerment. Before I introduce these authors to you today, a huge shout out goes to our lead author, David McLeod. David, we wouldn't be here without you. Your mission and vision for Gifts of Wisdom was big and badass. And I'm so honored to be here talking to some of your authors today, but really just honored to be on the journey with you, bringing these beautiful, brave words to the world. So thank you to David. And I've got some pretty cool people in my Zoom room today, you guys. Bonnie Sheldon is an EFT master trainer and embodiment coach who helps people achieve a stress-free life of peaceful ease of mind and movement, and also works with corporate wellness. Gwenda Smith is here. She's the founder of the spiritual school of WESH, Wisdom, Enlightenment, Self-Healing, where hearts and minds embrace divine union. Scott Holmes is back he is an intuitive energy healer guiding professionals to find their true life path. And Susan Ernst is a passionate, best-selling children's book author and expert commercial real estate appraiser. She also happens to be my mom, you guys. Yay, Mom. Love you, Mom. Okay, so let's do this, everybody. Bonnie, you're going to start the party off. Tell us the why behind this chapter about wisdom for you.
Well, my chapter's name is Body Unbound, the Art of Somatic Liberation. And the why is really there in Body Unbound. I'm passionate about creating an embodied world, which means people who are able to live in their body and experience their heart space and share it with others. And that's not happening easily in our world, with people glued to the computer screen, disassociated with the worries about the war. So I consider somatic liberation, which is a word, somatic meaning from within, to be kind of a crucial issue facing mankind today. So I brought a lot of passion to this.
Oh my gosh, you may not know this, Bonnie, but that topic is one of my favorite ever. It's also informs my whole life's work. So I love it. I love it. I love it. And I want to say, like, it's hard to be in here right now. It's hard to be in this body right now and take responsibility for those feels. Like, what do you think is the most important thing you want people to know who are practicing that, who are having a tough time?
I think that people don't understand that it's natural for our bodies to react. So we experience these aches and pains, and we just experience them as aches and pains. But Irene Lyons, who's a somatic specialist, described it really well. She says when things happen, it's like a metaphor. A beach ball hits our body, and our body tenses. And we're not necessarily conscious of that, but then we carry that and it becomes pain. And it might even become a physical contraction to accommodate that pain, and it leads to ill health, it leads to mental distress. And so what I would say for people to become aware of is to know that this happens and practice relaxing your body. There's something called a body scan where you just think through your body and at each place consciously begin to relax the muscles. It's called embodied anatomy. And it might not happen the first, second, or 10th time you try it. It's a visualization, but ultimately the brain speaks to the body, and you can relax your body at the beginning and end of every day and be a lot farther ahead.
I love the body scan, the act of that exercise. There's so many different resources and things, you guys, and I'm sure Bonnie's got a few of them too. So one last question about that, Bonnie. You know, we want people to come on back in. And I know there's a lot of people working through some pretty hefty past trauma. So when they come back in, it doesn't feel safe. In fact, it could kind of feel like you're about to die. So The relaxation stuff is super good. It can be a miracle morning and a miracle evening for some of us who are practicing and who've done a lot of work on our own trauma. But back to that person who maybe is kind of dipping a toe in a little bit and it does not feel good. Like, we want you guys to get help, but what else do you want to tell them, Bonnie?
Well, yes, it can be uncomfortable to come into our bodies. Many of us are afraid because when we experience pain, that's a sign of danger to us. And so, well, I wouldn't say as we start to do somatic work and begin to experience to work past pain, because that's also a danger signal. You don't want to go into acute pain. But if we're experiencing discomfort, I recommend journaling, noticing where it happens in your body, and then begin to notice what was going on at that time. So you begin to be aware of what we call triggers or activators, is what caused that to happen. And yes, it is maybe a little uncomfortable to face what the reality is as we become aware, but the benefits are just so, so great.
Bonnie, thank you so much for being here today and for just sharing about this very important topic.
You're very welcome. My pleasure.
So y'all know I'm a journaling fan, I hope by now. That's an incredible awareness tool. And already we've kicked this interview off with some pretty amazing awareness, golden nuggets of awareness. And I think all of the authors in this book are doing that. I get so excited to share these little nuggets with you because one of them can change your life. Gwenda, you're next. Tell us the why behind this chapter for you.
Thank you, Laura. So my chapter is chapter 10, and it's embracing your heart's wisdom. When I was a young nurse and I saw an elderly couple that we'd had in our care for some time, and after he passed, watching that beautiful lady wither away from a broken heart made me wonder, what is it about that? So over the years, I've explored the wisdom of the heart. And for me, to be able to express to people that the wisdom their heart holds is, in another word, pure love. And when you can sit in that place, you can transform hurt, heal pain, heal illness. It's really sad to watch someone pass away from this world from a broken heart. And it just shows you how incredibly powerful it is, the power that you have in your heart. Love is the greatest healer of everything. And love is the glue of everything. And what I've learned through my time of exploring this and finding out what it's like to sit in my own heart, I discovered that what we believe is love really isn't. And what we want of love, we really don't know. But being able to answer those things takes you to the place of wisdom in your heart. And I'm deeply passionate about that.
How cool that you're following Bonnie when we're talking about being embodied, because when we then go right to the core place in us with that heart, I mean, small miracles can happen there as we practice being in that beautiful space. Oh my gosh, there's so much about this topic of the heart. I had a healer once say to me, the heart can hold all the sorrow and all the joy. And she was responding to something I said about this, about like, I don't know if I can do it. What else do you want to tell us about that capacity of our heart?
Every time someone explores pain, they will use their heart to express it. Or my heart hurts, or there's so much pain in my heart. And when people express the sorrow, their hands automatically go to their heart, to their chest, as if they're holding it, like, oh, I can't bear any more of this pain, as if they want to nurture and protect it. Yes, the heart can hold an enormous amount of sorrow. It can also hold an enormous amount of love. But I'd like to turn that around for you to think that is all your heart is actually derived from, is pure love. So when you can find your way to that golden, pure love and wisdom, the pain and the heaviness of sorrow is transformed. And you're able to feel lightness in your heart again, because it really does, as Bonnie said, it affects the physical body. So when I said that the patient we were looking after, she literally died of a broken heart. Her heart couldn't bear that sorrow anymore. So when we look at how we express, our emotion, when we're so happy with something, we go to our heart. It's like, oh, this is so good. Or if it's really breaking us, it's, oh, I can't bear this. Yeah.
Yes. More really, really amazing awareness of these practices that I'm going to keep, sounding like a broken record. This stuff is life-changing. This is not small potato stuff, you guys. This is like big stuff. Gwenda, thank you so much for being here, being in this project.
A pleasure.
Scott, tell us about the why behind your chapter.
Well, I'm in chapter 6, The Secret of Joyful Living, how to curate your curiosity superpower. I love the fact that I'm following these two beautiful ladies because it's all about coming into your body and about love, the capacity, the huge capacity that we have for love. But also, curiosity, I find, is the second most powerful presence in our lives. When we're children, how do we grow? How do we see? How do we learn? It's curiosity. When we meet people, what is it? And I love to travel. And when I'm traveling, I find that I'm even more curious about everything: the taste, the smells, the sights, the sounds, the people. I want to know. You go out to dinner in your own hometown and you sit next to people and you don't necessarily, because you're always there and it's your favorite spot and, you don't really talk to anybody. But when I'm in Venice and I'm sitting next to a couple and they speak English, I'm going to engage in them. That curiosity. I want to know what they know. I want them to tell me where's the best place to eat. I want to do that. And when you bring that curiosity, it changes how you view life. After my wife died, I was in a really deep, dark place. And it was curiosity that really helped bring me out, because I was curious about me. I didn't know who I was anymore. I'd been caregiving for 20 years. And I didn't know who I was anymore. And so that curiosity, piece by piece as it came out, really enabled me to come out and find out who I actually was. And now the wonderful part of that is I am living my best 18-year-old life. I write, I teach, I travel, I meet all these amazing people from all over the world because of the writing and because of doing this work.
Curiosity is truly, I call it a ninja move of awareness, because of how it can shift somebody almost instantly to something that's going to serve them way better than where they were before that curiosity. But I love what you said, that one of your aha moments was actually just turning the curiosity on yourself. You were curious about you. And that's because you had so much experience with being a caregiver, having to do and be and say and all the things, and that becomes who you are to some respect. Your wake up moment, like, oh my gosh, what did you do? Did you have a moment where you just wanted to run down the street naked, or did you have were you paralyzed a little? It can go in both directions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It does. And it's that journey. I've always been a reader. I've always been a student. And it was always outside. I always wanted to get the information outside. And the thing that I didn't do was come inside. Reiki started that. Reiki 2, Reiki Master. polarity therapy. All these different modalities. And every time I did that modality and sought it out and did the courses, a different perspective came. And I saw myself differently. And I saw different aspects of myself differently. And things that I thought I had, when you're doing this work, you level up, you say, oh, I took care of that. Okay. Well, you get to this point, and all of a sudden you're dealing with something you dealt with a year ago, and you said, oh, I thought that was all done. But it's a different perspective. And that curiosity, that insane curiosity will help you lift yourself up. And it also changes how you deal with people, when you're curious about people, you're not so much worried about telling them about you. You want to know about them. And that's the receiving part of it. And I absolutely love it.
I love that too. It opens up worlds. Scott, thank you so much for being here. So, Mom.
Yeah.
Tell me the why behind this chapter for you.
Good morning, everyone. It's funny that it's not funny, it's perfect that we're all talking about love in one form or another. What I would like our readers to recognize, and particularly the younger readers that get a hold of our wonderful book, is that love can transform your fear into courage. That's my message. And it's funny that it took many, many decades for me to figure out that it was not necessarily the love that I was throwing at other people, but it was the love that I needed to find for myself. And the title of my chapter is Throw Some Love at It, Facing Your Vulnerabilities on the Public Stage. It happens that in my work and in my private life at church and other places, I find myself in positions of having to speak to others. And for years, I've been so uncomfortable in that position. The inside of me is just boiling and blood pressure is going up. And after all these years, I realized that I've been spending too much time looking for the reasons why outward. And through a good friend just recently discovered that I needed to look inward. And so that is what I wanted to share, particularly with our youth, because I think so many I know that I'm not alone in this. I know there's lots and lots of people that have the same types of fears and discomfort. And I'd love for kids to be able to figure that out way early and not waste any of this precious life that we have. That's my thought for now.
What's been the best thing about being able to do a little bit more public speaking for you?
I think that just recently, and I have to say within this piece that meeting these 22 or so other authors is the gift to me. The collaboration of this book helped me to see that we all have a common humanity, that none of us are really perfect. We all have our warts and blemishes that we have to deal with. And everyone in this group has taught the reader how to do that, how to love oneself in a different way. And I've found that for me, just overcoming the fear has given me the opportunity to enjoy so much more what I love to do. For example, as you know, I've done a lot of mission work for children who have been rescued from sex trafficking. And I want to share the message. I want people to be aware of that and to do what they can to stop that horrific crime. And I think now I'm in a better position to speak about it without falling apart. I'm holding my heart together as I speak about something that's so precious to me.
I love listening to you talk about this because essentially, y'all hear me say it about 1,000 times a day. Your words change the world when you're brave enough to share them. And to watch my mom's journey through that fear and that really visceral feeling that I know all too well as well of getting on the other side and being able to speak your truth and voice and passions out loud. That's world changing. So congrats for getting to the place that you are today, being able to do that.
Thank you. Never too late, right?
Never too late.
I think that's another discovery. Here we are, the premise of the book was to kind of be sitting around a campfire, the elders telling our stories to the young ones and sharing our wisdom. My goodness, we still have years ahead of us and we can still learn. And I just kind of discovered that as well. I'm kind of excited now about where the next few decades will go.
Scott said
well.
We're all living our best 18-year-old life at this point. We finally figured it out.
Exactly.
Thank you. Thank you for being in this project and for being my mom.
Thank you.
Gwenda, I'm coming to you with this next question, but I'm going to just say a quick thanks to all four of you. You all took my challenge of putting your hearts on the pages for people and really giving that vulnerable, real story of your lives. I thank you for that. And then in the practice section of this book, you guys, our authors are offering a way for you to practice, a way for you to have an experience. And that's really where it's at. That's where the learning takes place, is when you all experience these things for yourself. And you all did this so brilliantly. So thank you for being brave about your story and putting those experiences into black and white for people. It really is quite amazing to me. Gwenda, when you think of the wisdom you've acquired over the years, what do you think was the most powerful nugget for you personally in your life?
That's actually easier to answer than I was getting ready for, Laura.
Good.
I thought, now where's she going to swing that ball from? So the biggest nugget for me was when I was doing some contemplation around believing that my dad and his mum, my grandmother, were the two people who loved me the most in my life. And I was in meditation one day doing one of the practices I offer, which is actually quiet contemplation, and visualizing both my dad and my grandmother. And I got taken back to see some of the times in my life with them. And oh my gosh, when that penny dropped, it dropped more like a lead balloon. They loved the little girl, when she was the way they wanted her to be. And I had come to believe that that was what love was. And when I realized that what I thought my gran and my dad were the only two who really, really loved me more than anyone else, it was conditional love. And that set me back so hard, Laura. And that took me down a new discovery, curiosity, if I use Scott's word, about, okay, so where does that leave me? And initially my heart went, oh, I didn't like that realization, because it burst a bubble of what I believed the two people who I sat up there thinking they loved me for who I am, but I didn't even know that at the time.
Oh, holy moly. We could have an entire show on that one, Gwenda. Thank you for sharing that story, because I think there are probably a lot of us who can resonate with it. Gosh, you guys, we're going to be waking people up to what love means today. Oh, all right, I'm going to have to put a bookmark in that one, Gwenda. Yeah, so that's what's so fun about these topics. So we could be here for hours and hours, but I hope y'all will just take a deep breath on that one, really. Because I think almost everyone I know has had an experience like what Gwenda just talked about. So what does that mean for you, right? We're going to have some big questions. Get out your journals, really. Scott, I'm going to move to you reluctantly after that, but not reluctantly. So when you think of the wisdom you've acquired over the years, what was that one powerful nugget for you?
I was sitting at a ball game with my grandson. I brought my grandson to a ball game, and there was this young couple that was sitting next to me. And I told them that I had been married for 40 years, and they're like, "Oh, we're thinking about getting married." And I said, what's the one thing that you can tell me that you can, what gifts can you give us? And I said, shared sense of humor. And they looked at me, and I said, life is going to throw so many things at you. Life will throw curveballs. They will throw disappointments. They will throw sadness. They will throw grief. When you have a partner, if you have a shared sense of understanding, a shared sense of humor, it will bring you through almost anything. If you take a whipped cream pie and put it in her face and she doesn't laugh, you're going to be in trouble. But if she is laughing hysterically, you have a shared sense of humor. You see perspective. You see life very similar in how you view things. My wife and I, even through, I had a multiply handicapped daughter, and we would be in the ER, and we would be there, and at times it was a life and death situation, and we're there with the doctors and the nurses, and it would be what you call hospital humor or black humor, things you could never say outside the situation, but everybody had a smile on their face to alleviate that tension, to know that everybody was in the same space. And that, for me, in any relationship, if you have that understanding, you have that perspective, you have that shared sense of understanding, everything kind of comes through. This book, by the way, for anybody who's listening, this book, we have people from all over the globe, as witnessed here, Australia, US, they're all over the place. But there is that shared sense that we want to give those gifts, that understanding beforehand. You don't want to have to put your hand on the hot stove to see if it's hot. Okay, we want to tell you it's hot. You don't want to blister your hand. Learn the lessons before you do it the hard way. I know I did most of my life. I did it the hard way. I had to find out. I had a lot of knocks on the head, and I had a lot of falling down, and I had a lot of disappointments. Learn, listen, and do it with curiosity about what else is out there and what other people have done. And it's amazing how everything changes.
Thank you, Scott. Susan, tell me about that nugget of wisdom for you. What was it? What was that one most important one for your life?
Hard to say that it's the one, but the one that always comes to me and has had so much profound impact on me was I was sitting in Cambodia on a sweaty concrete floor, surrounded by literally 100 children who did not speak English, who had been rescued from trafficking, who had undergone horrific crimes. And they were staring up at me, and they had been told I was safe and the people I had brought with me were safe. So it was okay that they could be there with me. And I looked at the leader of that ministry and asked him, how in the world can we help these dear children? We can't even speak to them properly. And he said, oh, it's quite simple. Just love on those kids and give them a reason to hope. And that's how powerful love is. We sat there sweating and, and wishing we had water, and just held our arms out. And these sweet kids just clambered into our arms and our laps, and we sat and we held them and we sang stupid songs, and we, running on Scott's thoughts, we made funny faces and made them laugh and poured as much love on them as we could without ever speaking a word they understood. And that to me is the message. Again, talking about love. My goodness, if that helped those children with what they've been through, just think what we can do.
Giving me goosebumps. Thank you. Okay, Bonnie, tell me, you've acquired some wisdom in this life of yours. What was the one nugget for you personally that you're thinking of today?
Well, I have my nugget, but I want to join the bandwagon here for love and laughter first. As
Yeah.
those are really, the two key things we want to pass on to the next generation is love and laughter. Absolutely. But I do have another thought. I am a very, very senior citizen, and my moment of wisdom came when I was quite young, a newlywed bride, and I became very sick. And I had cancer in multiple places in my body, and I also had systemic sclerosis. I was just a mess, and no one could help me. I was in a terminal condition, and my husband, bless his heart, took me to an alternative clinic in Mexico. And that story in itself of escaping the hospital and flying in the airplane and getting to that clinic is a story of its own. But when we arrived there, they would not let me stay because they thought I would die on the premises. So we made a choice. We returned to San Diego and we hired an ambulance and we commuted over the Mexican border every day for treatment. And I was successfully treated. Within 4 weeks, I was clinically cancer-free. And there was a moment there where I was told I would probably die on the premises. And so it would just be better if I went on home. That I looked at Greg and I said, that was my husband, my new husband. I said, we're not done yet. They're wrong. And at that moment, I realized the responsibility for my life lay with me. I could make the decisions that would influence my life. People might have an opinion. They might be right. They might be wrong. But my choices were my choices. And if I took responsibility for my health and my life, they would go more likely the direction I wanted them to go. So I found in subsequent years of my life, when I look at a difficult situation and I don't look for blame, I don't look for victimhood, I don't look for perpetrator, I say, what do I need to do now? Because I know I'm in charge of my life. And I have outside influences, we have genetics, we have ancestral influences. But in that moment, we can make a decision that's ours. And that gives us our own real power.
Oh,
Yeah, another
oh.
whammy. It's funny. I think that once upon a time, I said to myself, you got to take responsibility for everything in your life. And there was this feeling of, oh, really, like heaviness. But then all of a sudden it flipped. Yeah, I get to. And that being the ultimate freedom. Right. And so Bonnie is just making me think of that with her story. You all get to take responsibility for those decisions. And that's such a big topic. Honestly, we could go forever on that, but I got 2 more questions for all of you. And Scott, you're up on this one first. The experts and authors in our Brave Healer community, we all have different ways we practice awareness and connecting to that thing that's bigger than us, which is one of the ways I believe experiences turn into wisdom. So would you share about, I know you've got multiple, but I just need one of your personal practices today. What do you do to connect?
Every morning I get on the mat, no matter how I'm feeling. I practiced yoga for the last 17 years. And once I'm on the mat, my day starts. I do meditation, I do yoga. And even though I'm over the age of 65, because of the yoga practice, I can do something like play basketball with my grandson that he does every day, and I do once every 6 months or a year, and I'm not sore from it. So I take responsibility for my body in that respect, and it changes everything else. Because when you're in pain, your whole day changes.
Love it. I love listening to all of your ways you do this, you guys. Mom, what's one of the things that you do for yourself to connect?
I have just been learning as I've been practicing self-love and self-care and all those things, that when I feel anxious or afraid of something, it's typically something that is in the future. It hasn't happened. I'm just sitting there worrying about it. So I have a habit now, which is kind of weird, but it's working, where I stand either outside or out at the window and stare at a tree, because I have a thing with trees. I really like them. And I just breathe for a few minutes and remind myself that none of that has happened yet, and just get back to where I am in that moment. And that's how I'm practicing awareness these days.
I love it. It's powerful, and y'all can use any anchor. Trees, birds, for me, flowers, the sound of the house air conditioner. Honestly, I know that sounds interesting, but like you can anchor into a sense so that you can be back to Bonnie in your body, back to Gwenda in your heart, and be in the moment, that the generous, precious moment you are in, where everything is possible. Oh, don't get me started. I love this so much. Okay, Bonnie, what's one of your practices?
So besides meditation, I do turn to EFT tapping, emotional freedom techniques, where we're just tapping gently on acupuncture meridian points and breathing. And just as I talk, I can tap on these points and re-regulate my nervous system, repattern my neural pathways. And science tells me what I know to be true is I'm going to feel better.
Oh my gosh, you guys, tapping, EFT, emotional freedom technique. If you have not dabbled, dipped a toe in tapping, it is incredibly powerful. Go try it. I am a fan, Bonnie. I love it. I love it. I love it. Gwenda, how about you? Tell us about one of your connection practices.
Favorite, Laura, is to make a promise. Every morning, I begin my day with a promise to my heart that I will listen to its whispers and its wisdom. I'll not only listen, I'll follow it. Every morning, without fail, a bit like Scott getting on that mat. Every morning, I place myself into my heart, gently looking down, not dropping, gently looking down. And I say, I promise to you, I will hear you, I will listen to your whispers of wisdom.
Oh, I love it. These are all so, so powerful. And I know all four of you have multiple ways. We have so many tools and practices available to us to be in that moment, to connect to that essence, to something bigger, something higher, connect to ourselves, connect to love. We could be talking all day about the hundreds of ways. So I think my message is find the one for you, and not everything works for everybody. So keep finding the way that works for you. And also, every modality doesn't work for the same person every single time. So it's great to have all the ways, right? It's also a reason I love these books so much, and all of you, because our listeners are going to hear it in exactly the way they need to hear it from you, your unique way of expressing. So hence all of our stories coming together and all of our practices coming together in this beautiful book. It's such a gift. You will find a nugget for you, talking to our listeners today. And this last question is really aimed at them as well. They're all on a journey, and things have been a little rough lately, you know? Sometimes we get stuck. There's so much going on in the world that can throw you kind of into darkness or the pit, or get you stuck, or help, or just make you feel a little paralyzed about your journey. And really we're here for the love, for the joy, and to thrive. Mom, what's the most important thing you want people to know about thriving on this journey?
I want to say that today in particular, to me, the most important thing is my intention towards peace, period. That to me is the most important thing. Our world needs to come be at peace. And right now we are not there. And I feel that there are 22 authors here that all wrote about love and finding peace, either within or without. Just think, 22, you know, it's just a rock in the pool, whatever that cliche is. If we could all do that, if we could all have a complete intention for peace and work towards that, that I think is one of the most important things today.
Thank you. Bonnie, what's one of the most important things you want people to know about thriving on this journey right now?
Susan sort of said what I was going to contribute, which was and is to begin with peace with myself as I face the troubles in the world, is shine my own peace, thought, word, and deed, is ahisma, nonviolence of thought. And in that process, accept the notion of trust or surrender, which is kind of an arcane concept in today's life, but in a given moment, when we actually can't control anything but our own actions, in that moment, to surrender and accept what's happening, because we really have no control over the state of the world. So if we accept that that's what's going on in the world and look for the hope, remember history, that there have been many, many dark times throughout human history. I think history helps. Hold the hope and hold the peace.
Thank you, Bonnie. Gwenda, how about you? What's the thing you want people to know?
Laura, I'd like people to think about an offering. You know, when you look at beautiful places in Asia where they do offerings to the gods every day, and some of the Western churches, they do different offerings. But I'd like to invite you to do an offering to yourself. Every night, as you settle into sleep, breathe deeply into your heart and offer yourself love, kindness, and compassion. I love Bonnie's word about hope. A lot of people have let go of that one. But when you settle yourself every night with an offering to yourself of kindness, love, compassion, you will spur the seeds of hope into bloom throughout your whole being. The world around you will change, and you can be the beacon for the peace and the light that you want to see in your world.
Thank you, Gwenda. All right, Scott, you're going to close us out today. Tell us that thing you want people to know.
Hard following up these three beautiful ladies. It's, for me, it has always been about gratitude. No matter where you are, whatever your life circumstance, no matter where you are, that when you go to sleep at night, as when Gwenda was saying, for me, it was gratitude, being thankful for the day, for the people in my life, for my health, for the roof over my head, for the bed I'm sleeping in. Having traveled all over the world and in third world countries, there are people who don't have those things. They don't have enough food. They don't have a place to sleep. They don't have a future. All of these things that you worry about are first world problems for the most part. Being grateful and having appreciation for all those things in your life changes your perspective, brings everything into your heart, and it changes how you deal with everything in your life. Thank you.
Well, speaking of gratitude, what a beautiful place to close. Bonnie, Gwenda, Scott, Susan, thank you so much for what you do in the world and for being here today to share it with everyone. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
So to our listeners, you might have heard something today that's given you the goosebumps. Maybe you've got a question, need some support. This is way more than a book. This is a generous community of amazing people. I think that you could hear that today. They're ready to answer our question. They're ready to give the support that you need, help you that next step on the journey. So come on down into our notes below the video. I have them all hooked up with their links, and go explore what they're up to in the world. It is a lot and it is amazing. You can also join us for a book launch party on Zoom. That's going to be October 10th. And I've got information down below. You can come join all of the authors of Gifts of Wisdom. Ooh, we're going to have fun at our party, you guys. We hope you come. And you can hop on over to Amazon and grab your copy of this beautiful book right now. Gifts of Wisdom could be the thing that changes your life. We hope that you grab a copy. Lastly, today, everyone, remember, your words change the world when you're brave enough to share them. So it is time to be brave. See you next time, everyone.